More and more people today get their news on the internet. Nevertheless, newspapers will continue to be an important source of news and information for most people. Do you agree or disagree with this statement?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Because like with the advanced technology or modern technology, now you can get the news instantly on your phone through your social media apps like Facebook and Twitter. So newspaper decreased in technology time.
So you disagree. The prompt is will continue to be. Okay, good.
No, I disagree. It will be important.
Does anyone want to add anything to that?
I think everybody is not here.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Why do you agree?
I agree the fact that on internet you get all the information, as Ala said, instantly. You don't have to wait for the next day to read it in the paper. But also, newspaper will continue to be important source of information no matter what.
Like, who doesn't know that Trump got COVID-19? It's even reached another universe, not even Earth.
Okay. So Kelly, I think you nailed it. That's instant info. We don't need to wait for the next day. I think this would be a good first reason. And by the way, when you're brainstorming in point form, these are the points that you need for this kind of essay. 6 points. You need your first reason, the evidence, and the example, and then your second reason, and then the evidence and the example. Do it in point form. Don't write full sentences, because before you start writing, we have to compare it back against the prompt and make sure that we haven't gone off topic. Is there another reason why you might disagree with this? And Kelly, I heard what you said. Don't try and argue both sides.
Okay.
Because there are advantages and disadvantages prompts where they tell you to talk about the pros and cons of both sides. In those situations, you don't give your opinion, you simply describe both sides. There's no real argument. In this one, they want you to have an opinion, and it's much easier to have an opinion, a clear opinion, if you give 2 reasons for a single side, because then you either agree or you disagree. There's a big danger that if you pick 2 arguments, one on each side, this is going to come across as a description rather than an actual essay, which needs to have an opinion or an argument.
So you're basically saying that in body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2, I should give or 2 disagree or 2 agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Two separate supporting reasons for one opinion, for one position. Okay. What could be another reason? So yes, instant information. We don't need to wait. Sorry?
Costly.
Cost?
The cost, like making a newspaper, it's more costly than technology, like posting the news. Like online is way cheaper than making a newspaper, because newspaper need an ink, need staff, need an industry, so it's more costly.
Good. At this point,
also I can add taking the news from the internet is easier than go on in sort of exploring the news. From the hard copies of newspapers, you can't filter and you can't For example, if you want to search about specific news you want to take, you will not get this from hard copies. So I think it's easy to take the news from online. It's convenient, yeah.
So we'll use this as part of our explanation. See, this isn't really the evidence, and this isn't really an example, but we can add it here.
Yeah.
Okay, and this will help us build the argument. And sorry, you said filtering, and what else?
Searching.
Filters, search. Yes.
What do you mean when you say filters?
Amar?
Yeah. If I want, for example, to take only the sport news, so I can just ignore all other news like stock market news and local news, everything. Just I can take sport news. All the sport news will come to me.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So what evidence could support this kind of position? So obviously most people prefer to read online. You can't argue against this. It is more convenient. The search is better. You can filter information any way you like. It's instant. What kind of evidence would support this, that lots of people are behaving this way? Remember, this has to support a conclusion that our conclusion is going to be newspapers will not continue to be an important source of news and information for most people. So what kind of evidence would help back that up?
Any research or survey done with the popularity of the online news.
And what do we call that? Okay, popularity of online news is up. And what's the flip side of that? Because it's not enough to show the popularity of online news is up. Because newspaper could still continue to sell a lot of papers even if this is true.
Popularity of newspaper decreased.
Good. And what do you call how many newspapers are sold? What is that called?
How many newspapers are sold?
Yes. If you're asking that, like an advertiser would want to know, what is your newspaper's beep? And it's the same word that you doctor people use for describing what the blood does in the body.
Circulation.
Distribution?
Circulation. Circulation.
Okay.
Newspaper circulation is down.
And even most of the newspaper convert from hard copies to soft copies, so they can do their own websites.
But also you can subscribe to any your favorite news and it will come instantly without even searching.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So what would be a good example? I mean, I think here you could easily use a personal example about your behavior. And remember, your behavior, the example that you use, is just bringing this evidence to life. Same point, just bring it to life with a good example. You can talk about maybe why you have stopped subscribing to a newspaper.
For example, one day I subscribed to Statista on my linked account. So, and all the time any news will come to notify through my link account. So I don't have to waste time to search or whatever. It's instantly comes on.
That's true, but remember you have to connect it back to our main argument, which which is newspapers will not continue to be an important source of news. So hang on, Ala, before you give your example, Oksana, your example is, it's true, but it doesn't prove this point.
Okay, but yes, but I don't know what I have to say about newspapers, but as I can see, the newspapers are still popular between all generation.
Yeah.
So maybe they still use them, right? Oh, sorry, they still use it, but young generation completely is completely different.
Yeah, so that would be in the evidence part, but what about the example?
Like I will say, I used to be a subscriber in BBC newspaper for 10 years, but with the advanced technology, I'm getting the same news on my phone, so that is more easier for me, or more practical for me, like with my job.
Okay, so, and I am ignoring grammar here, so I'm not, so don't yell at me for using bad grammar. BBC is TV news. I don't think there's a BBC newspaper. So don't use that example. Toronto Star, Globe and Mail, New York Times, whatever you want. So that's the kind of example that you need, Oksana, that you stopped subscribing to a newspaper because this stuff. Does that make sense?
Can we put like, for example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, all people have used to check for update or new cases through the online, because we put this is as a support or evidence for instance information.
And put this one here.
I think that the example given by Dr. Ala, better to put it in the second reason, because that is regarding the free news.
Let's put it like this. People are, okay, let me just write this down first before I write down your second point. Anxious, people are anxious for up-to-date info. Obviously not available if you're waiting for tomorrow's newspaper. Like there's a joke, right, about newspapers that they shouldn't be called news because it's not new anymore.
Yeah.
It should be called olds. It's a terrible joke. Okay. And sorry, Safa, what was your suggestion to put in the?
I suggest to put the example given by Ala in the second reason, because this is an online newspaper. Online news is free, and so no need to spend money to subscribe with any newspaper.
Yes, we can do that there. We could put it here too. Let's figure out the best place for it to go. So this is more practical. If the second reason is online news is free, what kind of example or evidence would be most appropriate for here? Online news is free. How does that connect to, we've got a missing link here. Again, our prompt, newspapers will not continue to be an important source of news and information. Okay, so online news is free, so what? How is that connected to newspapers declining?
Nobody will buy it?
Yes. People are not buying
Newspapers anymore.
newspapers. Okay, so what? What does that do to newspapers? How do newspapers make money?
So they will have bankruptcy. They will not survive anymore.
Yeah, what's the main revenue source for newspapers? What is their lifeblood? Ads.
Advertisement.
So ad revenue down.
Right.
And I guess bankruptcy. Right. They go out of business if ad revenue sinks too much. And obviously if they go bankrupt, then they won't be relevant news sources because they simply won't exist. What could be some evidence that we use to support this idea?
Like COVID-19.
It's got to support this. What kind of evidence would help us support this?
Any survey or research of percentage of newspaper companies or newspaper closed or bankruptcy?
Okay, number of newspapers that have closed. What else could help? Ad revenue.
Or percentage of people subscribe or unsubscribe from the newspaper.
Yeah, so that's going to be up here. We've got newspaper circulation is down. We can put that. But here, this is the money part. Right. So number of newspapers that have closed, ad revenue drop. So who is making this money now?
Ads?
Where has all that ad revenue transferred?
Online.
Which two companies
Google
make Google and who else
YouTube.
makes
Facebook.
Facebook? Well, YouTube is owned by Google, right? Ad revenue transferred to Google and Facebook. These are now the biggest ad companies in the world. Right. So their revenue has shot up like crazy at the same time that newspaper ad
trillion.
revenue. Sorry?
1 trillion they're worth.
Yeah.
$1 trillion per year.
Yes.
Which you can give it for 20 small country to live with.
Shows you what the world's priorities are, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and what example could we use here?
Like we can give example of any any popular newspaper and now it's closed.
So what's also pushing this? What technological revolution caused this to happen?
Internet.
A little bit more specific.
Online news?
Online news, but because of which technology allows people to consume online news everywhere?
Internet.
Social apps?
Internet. Mobile?
Mobile devices.
Smartphones. It's because you couldn't read newspapers on the old style flip phones that we used to have, right? So all of this started when smartphones, or all of this rather accelerated enormously once smartphones became the normal type of device that people have. Because on your old Nokia, you weren't reading the Toronto Star. It was too small.
Yeah, but like if the internet gone, we will go to zero. Like all these years, will go for nothing if only the internet got cut forever. Like we will go back to zero. Because
Could be.
all this because of the internet.
Mhm.
Like even now people are depending on their jobs because of the internet.
Mhm.
Like if the internet go, like we'll go even read the newspaper.
Okay. Do we have enough information here? I'd say so. Okay. So if you wrote that down, though, it would be off topic. Okay. So
One.
Allah, don't go there when you're actually doing your writing. Safa, one quick point. When you say I suggest, you said I suggest to put. It's always I suggest ing.
Okay.
I suggest doing this first. I suggest, if you're giving medical advice, I suggest avoiding junk food. I suggest trying, I don't know, chamomile tea, whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Or this is a noun clause for orders and suggestions, and this is subjunctive mood. Okay. As long as we're talking about this, let's do a super quick lesson. I suggest that she avoid sweets. What do you notice about this highlighted part that seems a little bit strange? Is there any weird subject-verb agreement there?
Yes.
Right. So it's normally it's she avoids sweets. I avoid, you avoid, she avoids. But this is, the grammar point is called noun clause for orders and suggestions, and it's called subjunctive mood. Okay.
So maybe adding should?
No, do not
No?
put should, because you already suggest.
Okay.
So if you put should, it's redundant.
Yeah.
Now, this is kind of an odd sentence, but I'm just writing it to make a point.
Will. Mm.
Okay. This is the same as this, as this. This does not change. The only thing you're conjugating is this: present simple, past simple, future. And notice that this does not change. That I avoid, that you avoid, that she avoid, that he avoid, that we avoid, that they avoid. Okay. If you want to look it up on the course page, let me just go out here for a sec. That's all the way down here. Noun clauses. So complex sentences 2.8. If you want to look into that. Noun clauses in subjunctive mood for orders and suggestions. All right, let's do a little bit of writing. So this is the prompt. I'm going to just put in the chat. Oops, where's my chat? Here it is. I'd like you to do the intro paragraph. 2 sentences. Sentence 1 in the introduction is paraphrase the prompt. Sentence 2 is your opinion, and I'd like you to very, very briefly summarize the 2 supporting reasons. Okay. Now, what's an effective way to begin the topic paraphrase?
Nowadays,
Debate.
an ongoing debate.
What's that phrase that we want to use?
There is an ongoing debate.
There is an ongoing debate whether.
Hang on, you're missing one word. There is an ongoing debate about
Whether.
or not. And I'm not going to finish that. I'll leave that for you to finish, right? And then you can put, in my opinion, because A and B. So this would be a template that can work for you. Okay, and I'll just leave our brainstorm on the screen, and I will give you up to 10 minutes.
Can I see the prompt?
Yeah, the prompt is in the chat box.
Okay.
If you can see it.
No.
No.
Not there.
It's not there.
Oh, it's because that's in the waiting room. Why did it do that? Everyone in the meeting. Okay, whoops. Okay, there it is. And then I'll put the second part there. And I'll leave this on the page. I'm not going to share the document right now because the model response is right below. So just want to see what you do on your own first. Okay, 2 sentences. Give you 10 minutes. Okay, Azubi, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Let's just grab the actual prompt. All right, here we go. And readily available. And it's always the internet. News channels, okay. Maybe. Okay. Referencing refers to, you've often heard me talk about this, like using the wrong pronoun, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're saying computers, 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 and then you switch to it, then it confuses the reader. Referencing also refers to bad paraphrasing or imprecise paraphrasing, because they're not asking about which one is trendier or more popular. The point is, newspapers will or will not continue to be an important source of news and information for most people. It's really specific. So these don't match up perfectly. In your own words, can you paraphrase the underlined part of the prompt?
Newspaper will continue to source of news and information will continue. It's mean that whether the newspaper like will continue as a source of information for most of the people.
Okay. About whether newspapers try and paraphrase piece by piece. This often works surprisingly well. Just chunk it up and paraphrase it part by part, and let's see if it works. Will continue to be.
Will continue newspaper.
What's a synonym for will continue to be?
Will be there or will work for?
Any suggestions for a synonym for will continue to be? One word. Starts with R.
Start with R.
6 letters. Last letter is N.
Not restored.
Referring.
2 more. Sorry, Shamri?
Referring.
No, we're just trying to paraphrase it chunk by chunk. 2.
Remember?
Remain.
Remain, okay.
So will continue to be, will remain, an important source of news and information. That's the next chunk.
Okay.
What's a synonym for important?
Important. Integral?
Simpler word.
Valuable.
Significant?
Significant.
Significant. Significant is a synonym for important. The significant statement at the end of a body paragraph, you can also call it an important statement. It doesn't have such a great ring to it. But again, in that significant statement, you're explaining why that paragraph you just wrote is important towards proving the prompt or towards proving your opinion. Will remain a significant
Source. Medium. Significant medium.
Good. And let's just swap information and news. And what's a synonym for most people?
Some more people.
Majority.
Majority.
So this worked in this case very nicely. This is the same structure as the original. It's nicely paraphrased. This works. Let's see what you put here. In my opinion, internet use to read news is more popular because it is instant and readily available, and the internet is also a common source used by different news channels. This is not, your opinion should not be about whether the internet will be more popular.
News on internet.
That's not what you should be arguing here. What you should be arguing is whether or not newspapers will continue to be an important source of news and information, not whether or not the internet will become more popular. That's different.
But it was written more people today get their news on the internet.
Yeah, this is the context. That they're not. Okay, with these questions, part of this is arguable and part of this is not arguable. Which part of this is not open to argument? Which part of the highlighted text is a fact that you're not arguing with?
The first one?
Yeah, this first part. This is not open to argumentation. This is a simple truth. Okay, so that's what your opinion needs to be. It needs to respond directly to this. Not about whether the internet is going to be more popular, but what the fate of newspapers is going to be. Will they continue or not to be an important source of news and information? Okay.
But the example that you have already given, like in the brainstorm session, it was regarding the use of internet.
That is
like
correct.
Yeah.
So those are our supporting reasons for why that's true. Absolutely. But the statement needs to be newspapers will decline because of these two advantages of the internet. That's the structure that you need to take. Newspapers will decline. I mean, you use different language because of A and B.
Okay.
In what we wrote here is there's an ongoing debate about whether or not newspapers will continue In my opinion, this statement is true or this statement is false because A and B. And what statement are we talking about? We're talking about this one. The question's not about the internet, the question is about newspapers. The context is the internet, but that's not the question. Okay? So you absolutely need to talk about more people getting their news online, but the question is about whether newspapers will be an important source of news in the future. Okay, this one is Chalmers.
I have done the same mistake.
Okay. I'm providing the latest news and facts for people. While a wide range of people use, it's always the internet.
The internet.
In my opinion, use of the internet for the latest news, updates. It's very common as it is really. Yeah, so this doesn't answer the prompt.
Yeah, always I find difficult to get the exact sense of the prompt.
So this is about not making assumptions about the prompt. See, this is a really common issue. Even with native speakers, really good writers, they still mess this kind of stuff up. A lot of English teachers, they want to show off for their students and say, oh, I can get a band 9 on everything, no problem. And they go in and they end up with a low score. And this is the main reason why. And if you go on Quora, for example, you'll see all these discussions about people saying nasty things about IELTS, that IELTS is out to get them. And their language skills are actually, like, these complaints are really well written. So the reason for all these problems is people not addressing the prompt as given. And it's a little bit unfair, but I'm not sure how they could get away with this or how they could overcome this issue. Because in a normal class, let's say in high school, you get a question like this. You don't get a question like this and then you go away for a period of time, write it on your own, and then hand in a finished product to the teacher. You have conferences with the teacher. You first show your outline. You do brainstorming in groups. You report to the class and to the teacher how you're going to develop your ideas. So these kinds of problems in a school setting will get caught in very early stages. So a teacher should not let you proceed to the final writing stage if you have this kind of problem.
I know.
University too, you have tutorial sessions, you meet with groups, you talk to your TA, and again, you go over your ideas, and the TA who's marking your work is going to tell you, no, you're on the wrong track. This is what you need to talk about instead. So it's rough stuff, and especially when you've been out of school for a while, you're not in this kind of mindset that of reading these kinds of prompts like they're a legal document of some kind. But unfortunately, they are. The prompt and the rubric are the only thing the examiner has to go on. So the prompt and the rubric are basically a legal contract between you and the examiner. Right? That's the only thing they have to go on. Okay, this one is, okay, this last one, people use the internet to get their news. Nowadays, many people use the internet to get their news. You don't need from. At the same time, newspapers will stay to be a main source. Okay, hang on. At the same time, newspapers will stay to be a main source of news and information for most people. That sounds like this is your argument. But then you say, in my view, I disagree that newspapers will continue to be an important source. Source of what?
News.
Okay. I would say a source of information. Because methodology allows, you want present simple for general facts, right? Allowed is past tense, it's finished. So verb tenses are really important. It allows people to get the news instantly and with no cost, at no cost. We'll use the internet. Yep.
Just internet is uncountable, right? Why we add the
It's always the internet. You can say, like Kelly was saying, I didn't have internet access today because of a power failure. But you would say, I couldn't access the internet today. This is the convention. If you're using internet by itself, it's the internet. If you're using internet here as a modifier, because access is the main noun, then there's no the.
Okay.
So let me just cross out the here, because this is completely wrong if you put that.
Yeah, I have that mistake all the time. The internet or internet.
So if it's part of a phrase, like a noun phrase, no the. My internet access is too slow. My internet access is down, but I can't access the internet.
Great.
To get their news. So don't start with this. This is causing the problem. This is really what the debate is about. Okay, and you can add that here. So you could change this to, let's change this one. What could we put at the beginning of this to add just the key idea here in this prompt? Just a few words, something about the internet. Any suggestions?
Internet popularity increases.
Because of, just what you said right now, start it with because of.
Because of increased internet popularity There is ongoing debate
Mm-hmm.
about whether the newspaper will remain significant medium of information and the news for majority of people. My view, I disagree. Okay.
So this is a good one.
And the reasons I give, it's okay, right?
At no cost. Yep, very nice. Okay. Kelly. Whether newspapers will continue to be.
Yeah, thank you.
Talking about whether newspapers will continue to be or continue being.
Being. Mm-hmm.
Your choice.
To be. Yeah.
Main source. There's argument about whether or not newspaper will continue to be. For the majority of people. Let's just add that in. In my opinion, the internet
That's what I was talking before.
is most popular among those who want to have instant news using their own devices.
Who want, not that want. Who want?
That is okay. You can use that for people. Those that want, those who want. You can stick with who though. Have instant news using their own devices. Okay, so again, this is the problem. This needs to be about newspapers, not about the internet in your argument.
Yeah.
Newspapers will not continue to be a significant source of information because the internet is most popular among those who want to have instant news using their own devices. If you're ever stuck, use the quick and dirty version. In my opinion, newspapers
Will no longer.
will, what can we say? Will decline, we can say this, will decline or will continue to lose relevance for the following reasons. This is a good expression. Will continue to lose relevance. Okay. What does relevance mean?
Related to?
Important.
Yeah, it's not important anymore if they lose relevance. Okay, Safa. Whether the newspaper. Yes. Okay, this is yours. Whether the newspaper is still the main source of news. How well does that line up with this? Okay. Will continue. Hang on. Be careful. Look at the difference that the verb tense makes. Newspapers will continue to be. And you've changed it to is still. That's not the same.
And yeah, my prompt is still, my introduction is talking about the past. And that I think it's...
No, your introduction is about the present. But this one is about the future of the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
Whether the newspaper will continue or will, what's our synonym for will continue to be? Remain. Paper will remain the main source of news for the majority of people. That matches the prompt now. In my opinion, what goes after in my opinion?
Okay.
Okay. Put those commas in there. They will help you with the rest of the grammar in your sentences, because when you don't use commas, you have these monster sentences with no like breathing space between any of the parts of the sentence. When you use those commas to separate the clauses and the phrases, it makes the whole sentence much more manageable. You can actually see the chunks, and the relationships between them become much clearer. So don't neglect commas. They're not, I know people think they're lowly and insignificant, but don't neglect the comma. It's very important.
Okay.
In my opinion, I strongly disagree with this perspective. I believe that the newspaper, again, there's a tense problem,
Sorry.
will lose popularity for two significant reasons discussed below. Okay, good. How could you shorten this? So you haven't talked about this perspective, right? Because you've said there's a debate. So you haven't listed a perspective, you've simply mentioned that there is a debate. So that doesn't work either. I don't know if that makes sense. You're saying there's an ongoing debate about whether something, something, something. And then you say, I strongly disagree with this perspective, but no perspective has been given yet.
Like,
Does that make?
I need to put the other perspective, you mean? Like,
Well,
I need to mention people now is depend on the internet?
well,
Then,
it's a language problem. It's the problem is that you haven't mentioned any perspective. So you can either change the first part, or you can get rid of this.
change the perspective. Okay.
Right. In my opinion,
I believe the newspaper will lose the popularity for two main reasons.
the newspaper will lose popularity for two reasons discussed below. You don't need significant. It's not a problem, but my preference is always for tighter writing when possible.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Who's platformer?
Chamari, I think it is.
Oh,
Chamari.
no, it's not
Sorry,
me.
this is
It's
Olga.
not you? Who is?
Oh, Olga. Okay.
Olga.
That's my Olga. Lessons computer.
Okay. I was like, we don't have a student named platformer in our class. Okay.
I will
sorry.
call Olga Transformer from now on.
Okay. Nowadays, comma, more people are getting instantaneous news on the internet. Good. Well, some people agree that, while some people believe the newspaper is still important, the majority affirm it is obsolete. Okay. You're not really talking about what most people believe. You should be talking about what you think. While some people believe the newspaper is still important, why don't we just get rid of this and just say, in my opinion, so this is one sentence.
Okay.
We're going to put another comma in here. Newspapers will not be important in a couple years. Because, okay, so first you also put a comma. First, you can get instant vital news in the moment you need it.
And I just one reason, sorry, I was late. Yeah.
Yeah, and then second, you got to put your second. Yeah, good.
Okay.
Amar.
Yeah.
There's an argument about whether newspapers. S will be the most important source of news in the future, or getting news from the internet. Not is more important. This is different, because you're making a judgment here about the quality, but that's not what the quality is about, because the quality of online news is garbage for most people, right? So it's not about what the quality is, it's about what people are just doing.
Okay.
So what other, how could you change this? Will be more common. I don't love what I just wrote, but that's kind of where you have to go. Most important source of news or getting news from the internet will be more common. In my opinion, getting news from the internet is more important. So again, you have to talk about, the question is not about whether newspaper or internet news is more important, right? Because that's different from the question. Because importance is about quality. This is just whether or not people will actually use it. Okay. And Oksana, people will prefer to get significant source of information on their internet. Whether or not people will continue. No, this is different too. It's again, the prompt is about whether newspapers will continue to be an important source of news.
Mm-hmm.
People will prefer newspapers will continue to, and not even prefer, will continue to use or read, let's use a good verb, read newspapers as a significant source of information. As a significant source of information. Let's get rid of this. And internet, internet news, good. It is very popular. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The thesis statement has to relate to newspapers, not
Yes.
to the internet.
Popularity, yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at a model. So this is our structure. It's the same one that we've discussed previously. The intro is just the context and the thesis. Your two body paragraphs are going to follow tree's structure. Don't try and get creative with the transitions. There's no need for it. This might seem repetitive to you because you're undergoing training, so you're going to use these repeatedly, but the examiner is only looking at your work once. So it's not going to be repetitive for anyone else who's actually reading your work. The first reason why something is because, okay, research conducted by in the year showed that that's your evidence. Example, for example, at the end of the paragraph, for this reason or for these reasons, newspapers will not survive or the internet will put newspapers out of business. You can say the internet will put newspapers out of business. That's the same thing. That's completely aligned with the prompt. But don't just say the internet will become more and more popular, because that's going to be off topic. Because it's about newspapers, not just the internet. So let's look at a model here. Many people believe that newspapers will continue to be a significant news and information source despite the popularity of the internet. However, I disagree that newspapers will remain relevant for the majority of people since they are redundant and most people expect news to be free. What does redundant mean?
Added without any value.
That's right, extra and unnecessary. In the old days, most people would get the local newspaper, which was their one comprehensive source of news and information. Today, people no longer bother because they're on their smartphones all the time and get constant updates from their favorite news websites. The idea of waiting for the next day to get your newspaper is completely antiquated when such information is available at our fingertips. According to research published in the New York Times in 2019, newspaper circulation in the US has dropped from over 60 million subscribers in the 1980s to about 30 million subscribers these days. I myself gave up my newspaper subscription years ago. I failed to see the point of maintaining my subscription when I never learned anything new from reading the paper. I'd already seen all the stories in my news feeds. For that reason, newspapers are unlikely to remain relevant for most people. Furthermore, because so much news and information is available for free online, most people now fail to see why they should pay for the news, and this is killing newspapers. According to Pew Research published in 2018, a large percentage of seniors still pay for a newspaper, but only 2% of the 18 to 29 demographic do so. This drastic decline in subscriptions has caused advertising revenue to fall for newspapers, starving them of income and pushing many into bankruptcy. According to research published by the Newspaper Association of America in 2018, between 2000 and 2010, advertising revenue for American newspapers fell from $60 billion per year to $20 billion per year, the same level it was at in 1950. This has coincided with the rise of smartphones and a massive rise in advertising revenue for social media giants like Facebook and Google, which aggregate news and publish it free of charge for their users, who now favor reading on their phones. Publishers have thus shifted their ad budgets online from newspapers. This is the new reality, and newspapers cannot survive in such an environment. Therefore, as reading habits have changed and people now get most of their information and news online, newspapers have lost most of their readers and their revenue and will not remain relevant for most people. The end. Okay, any questions about the vocabulary?
I do have one question.
Yep.
There is one. Okay, I myself gave up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a comma there. I myself.
There's no problem with it. You could. I wouldn't put the commas in. I myself gave up my newspaper subscription years ago. There's no pause.
Can we say myself?
Just myself?
Oh, I gave up my newspaper prescription years ago.
You don't need myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just emphasizing the fact that it's a personal anecdote.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I could say, for example, I gave up my newspaper subscription years ago. No problem, no difference.
Okay.
So we've got some good expressions. Comprehensive source of news and information. Comprehensive source is really good. Constant updates from their favorite news websites. Antiquated. What does antiquated mean?
Antique.
Mm-hmm.
Old.
Old-fashioned.
Mm-hmm.
Information is available at our fingertips.
Fast.
Yeah, this is a great expression. Circulation. I failed to see the point. Means, what does failed to see the point mean? What does point mean here?
Reason.
Yeah, purpose. Subscription. Are unlikely to remain relevant. Again, we've got fail to see why. Drastic decline. Advertising revenue. Starving them of income, pushing many into bankruptcy. You say pushing many into bankruptcy. We've got advertising revenue already. This has coincided with. This is a great expression, means these things happen at the same time. Aggregate means bringing things together. So, Google and Facebook just grab news from wherever and put it together into a single feed. Ad budgets.
Yeah, I can use ad in formal writing, not advertisement.
Yes. Ad revenue, ad budgets. You can use one and then use the other. That shows flexibility in vocabulary. This is the new reality. Okay, newspapers can't survive. Okay, reading habits. Will not remain relevant. Okay, and that's the same. All right, let's see what you can do. So this is fairly long. It's an example of a really well-developed response. Pick and choose just the main ideas from this. See how close you can get to the original. Okay, let's have a couple volunteers or victims. I don't know. Which one is it? Okay. Let's go with Kelly for our intro.
Okay. Many people believe that newspapers are significant news. Where is significant news?
Future focus.
Many people believe that newspapers will be significant. Will remain.
Mm-hmm.
A significant
Keep going.
news and information source despite popularity. The popularity of the internet.
Mm-hmm. Good.
However, newspaper I'll finish with this. Newspapers will
What's our opinion about?
first of all, if newspaper will remain popular.
Okay.
Will remain redundant.
Will not remain. Okay, I don't love this, but let's see what happens. Will not remain popular. Why?
because internet is most popular. Because the main makes internet redundant. The internet redundant.
No, it makes the newspapers redundant.
Yeah, of course, we're talking about newspaper. Makes them redundant and expect, and most people expect the internet to be free.
Online information to be free. Yep. Okay, that works. All right, one more time. The intro.
Many people believe that newspapers will remain a significant news and information source despite the popularity of the internet. However, newspapers will not remain popular because the internet makes them redundant, and most people expect online information to be free.
Okay. Good. Let's go with Allah.
Yes.
Take your time.
Okay, all days, local newspapers were one of the significant source of news and information, while today smartphones, while today smartphones
We need a verb.
Are popularity. Smartphones provide updates from our favorite news website.
There we go.
Instead of waiting for the next day to get the news. Newspaper
Let's say the news from the newspaper
with adequate, while adequate, which adequate,
which is the word is antiquated.
Which is antiquated.
So antiquated is like a $99 word, which means old-fashioned.
Which is antiquated. Such information is available at our fingertips. New York Times.
Remember, this is the evidence. So how do we begin our evidence?
Count? According.
So the easiest way to start off your evidence statement is just to say according to the, or according to research. What's the standard phrase?
According to research published by American government.
Times. Okay.
By the New York Times in 2019, newspaper circulation in U.S. dropped from over 60 million subscribers in 1980s to 30 million subscribers.
And if you're talking about it, good. So if you're talking about a decade, it'll be the 1980s to about 30 million subscribers today. And by the way, if you want to remember these statistics, they're true. Okay, I didn't invent these. I did look them up when I was writing
like
this.
30 million, half of the percentage is still good.
Well, if your business was cut in half, I don't think that's too good for you.
No, and it's not in point of earning or business, in point of with the competing with the technology. Like since 1980s till now, like 40 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like more 40 years to be one, maybe.
To be one newspaper in 40 years.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're at our example.
Okay, for example.
So just in case anyone's wondering, topic, this is expanding on the reason. This is our evidence. Now we want our example. And how do we begin our example?
We can say, for instance, for example, I used to be a subscriber, and I gave up my newspaper subscription years ago.
Why?
Which I never learned anything new, because I never learned anything new since the
Subject.
news.
Subject.
Since
we're talking about ourselves. Since I had already seen
all stories and news feeds.
Good. This, in case you're wondering, this is past perfect. Right. We use past perfect before past tense. Never learned, past simple. Before that, had seen the stories in my news feed. Never learned anything from the newspaper, past tense, because I had already seen the stories in my news feed before I saw the newspaper. Okay. And this is our significant statement.
Based on these reasons, I disagree the newspaper will continue to be relevant or significant.
Good. Or you don't have to say I agree. Newspapers
unlikely to remain. Unlikely.
Okay, one more time. Allah.
I read it from the beginning.
This one, yep.
Okay. In the old days, local newspapers were a comprehensive source of news and information, while today smartphones provided updates from our favorite news websites. And instead of waiting for the next day to get the news from the newspaper, which is antiquated, such information is available at our fingertips. According to a research, or according to research?
Research.
Okay,
Research, in Europe, they do treat research as countable. And in North America, I was reading a book today, and they also, and in this American book, which is about 70 years old, I think, the fellow also said a research. This is a very well-spoken individual, but that's old-fashioned. In North America today, research is treated as uncountable. This person has published a lot of research. He has only published one research paper. Okay, so we'll treat it as uncountable.
Okay, according to research published by the New York Times in 2019, newspaper circulation in the United States dropped from over 60 million subscribers in the 1980s to about 30 million subscribers today. For example,
and Ala, I noticed that even when you're reading this, you can't hear the S at the end.
Subscribers.
Nice.
Okay. For example, I gave up my newspaper subscription years ago because I never learned anything new since I had already seen all the stories in the news feeds. Based on these reasons, newspapers are unlikely to remain relevant.
Okay, good. Let's go with Chamri.
Okay.
And looks like we might go a few little bit over time today. If you have to go, no problem. The recording will be available tomorrow.
As per the much news and information.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's start with a transition.
Since.
Or we can say moreover.
Okay.
Secondly, moreover, doesn't matter.
Moreover, due to the availability of much news and due to the availability of much news and information freely online.
Due to the availability of much news and information, let's say for free online.
For free online, causing most people to fail to see why should they pay for news. News as by killing you, I don't know. Which result killing newspapers? Which is killing newspapers.
Moreover, due to the availability of much news and information for free online, most people fail to see why they should pay for news, which is killing newspapers.
Okay.
Remember, conclusions, you can start with which. Like the result of all of this is killing newspapers.
Okay.
Okay, and this one goes right into some evidence.
Okay. As per the what is Pew?
Pew is a big research organization.
Okay. As per the Pew.
As per Pew, let's say, as per Pew Research, or standard method, as per research
done by
Yep.
conducted by Pew in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
A large percentage of seniors
Mm-hmm.
Still pay for many news still pay for the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
But only 2% of 18 to 29 demographic.
Right, because this is due, so we don't have to repeat pay for the newspaper.
Okay.
A large percentage of seniors still pay for the newspaper, but only 2% of the 18 to 29 demographic do. Does this make sense, this one verb do?
Like we haven't seen that very often, so like
This is a meaningless, dumb sentence, but she doesn't cook much, but I do.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't need to repeat cook much, but I cook a lot. It's better just to say, but I do.
Okay.
So that's what this is. A large percentage of seniors still pay for the newspaper, and then do refers to pay for the newspaper. Only 2% of the 18 to 29 demographic do.
Okay, so do refers to the 2%.
No, it refers to pay for the newspaper.
Oh, okay.
Just like she doesn't. Let's say I'm taking on more responsibilities in the household. She doesn't cook as much, but I do.
Okay.
Okay.
For example.
So the arrow, I use the arrow to indicate causality, causes and effects.
Okay. Okay.
So as a result.
As a result, advertising revenue. What? Advertising result.
Ad revenue continues to fall.
Advertising will continue to fall, leading to starves them of income loss.
Which starves newspapers income.
Starves of income. Lead
You're trying too hard.
yeah.
As a result, ad revenue continues to fall, which starves newspapers of income and pushes many into bankruptcy. Okay, we've got some new evidence here.
Yeah, as for example, Newspaper Association of America in 2018, between 2000 and 2010,
reported in 2018 that 2000 and 2010 ad revenue for U.S. papers fell from. Yep, go ahead.
reported in 2018 that between 2000 and 2008, ad revenues for US papers fell from $60 billion
$60 billion per year.
$60 billion per year to $20 billion per year.
To $20 billion per year.
$20 billion per year.
So it has to be dollars.
Okay, dollars.
$1 billion, $20 billion per year.
Okay. Can I go to the next point?
Good. So this last one would be the same level as in the 1950s. Okay, go ahead.
Same level as 1950 full stop.
I've got a question before you continue. After the 20 billions per year, can we say representing same level as in the 1950s or showing the same level?
Well, it is the same level.
But instead of saying the same level, can we say showing same levels as, or?
No, because this is an equal sign. It is the same level as in the 1950s. You don't want to use a less direct verb because it won't mean anything. It doesn't represent the same level. It is the same level as 70 years ago.
Okay.
Right. Revenues have fallen to 1950s levels in terms of ad spending on newspaper advertising. Okay.
Okay.
It is coincides with?
This coincides with?
This coincides with rise of smartphones and massive rise in advertising revenue.
Massive rise in advert for social media.
Revenue. Advertising revenue for social media giants like Facebook and Google. Which aggregate.
Good. Aggregate, yes.
Which aggregate news and publish it free for users. Causing, favoring reading on phones.
It's not cause.
Leading.
Who favor reading on their phones. Right? This coincides with the rise of smartphones because, and all this happens because people now favor reading on their phones. Okay. What has been the result of this? Say, consequently, you can say as a result.
Consequently, the publishers shift advertising budget for online.
Or let's say advertisers, advertisers or companies, advertisers
have shifted.
Have shifted.
Advertising budgets to online.
Shifted their ad budgets online. Good.
The new real? No.
This is
the new reality. New reality. Showing newspapers cannot survive.
Let's say, we can say in which, or we can just say and, in which newspapers cannot survive. It's in which because newspapers cannot survive in this new reality.
Okay.
Last one. Let's go with Amar.
To conclude, reading habit.
To conclude or in conclusion, both are fine.
The reading habit are changed.
Are
changed.
Changing. Have, you can say have changed or are changing, have been changing. All are fine.
People get most, and people get most info and news, information and news online. That leads newspapers to lose, which leads
Or we can say which has led
newspaper
or which
to lost. Yeah.
Papers to lose. Papers to lose
Their most readers.
Readers and revenue. Because they
are not relevant for most people.
Habits have changed and people get most information used online, which has led newspapers to lose most readers and revenue because they are not relevant for most people. Okay, so if you do this process on your own, you can compare what you come up with to the original version. I'm going to change this to advertisers. Okay, so you can compare what you come up with the original. They don't need to be the same. That's not your purpose in doing this exercise. The purpose is just because you've got this model and you have to learn on your own because our class time together is very limited. This is how Ben Franklin taught himself how to write. He would take original texts, transform them into point form, and then write his own version based on the point form notes, exactly as we've done here. And then he would take this version and compare it to the original and simply critique it himself. Say, oh, I really like how this author described this phenomenon. Or you'd say, oh, I think I did a pretty good job describing this phenomenon. And it's that kind of comparative process. Okay, sorry, we went over time. If there's any questions, go ahead. Otherwise, have a wonderful evening. And your assignment is due Thursday by noon.
Thank you.
I'll post the recording tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Can we share this?
This document?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I can share that with you right now. Okay, so that is in the chat. Okay, did you get it?
Yes.
Nice. Okay, Amar, have a wonderful evening.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.